Hello and welcome to Arts Alive. This week we're back at the Open Eye Gallery for the fantastic exhibition Zanele Muholi, Vukani Rise. Zanele is a South African artist and visual activist whose work questions race, gender, sexuality in relation to society and politics. More than 200 photos are on display, mostly portraits. I met Zanele, who told us how she worked on this exhibition.
From Johannesburg, South Africa. We are currently at Open Eye Gallery where Vukani, which means rise, at the height of so many challenging experiences faced by Black LGBTI individuals in South Africa and in Africa as a continent and beyond. There's still a lot of homophobia, queerphobia, xenophobia, and transphobia that persists. So I thought to myself that it was very important for me to document a community that I'm part, to ensure that those people who might not be aware of our existence get a grip of our, lives and living and faces for those who refuse to see us and be confronted by our existence. Understands. I wanted to change the picture completely to make sure that our voices, our visuals, and our struggles, they form part of the historical document in South Africa and beyond. It's one thing for the country to change laws that caters or that accommodates LGBTI people, but it's something else if we can't see ourselves in the mainstream media. We don't need to be confronted by any form of absence, not when we are told that we have a constitution that allows us to breathe and to be there, that protects us and protects our sexual orientation, that protects our gender, that protects our race. So this is my contribution towards South African history, and I'm using visual activism as a way in which I speak our truths. And I call myself a visual activist anyways, so which means like it's an activist to use the visual to articulate many issues or to challenge many issues. So lack of anything or absence of anything need to be dealt with accordingly. So Faces and Phases is a project that I started working on in 2006. And I'll do it as long as I live, and it's lifetime. And it consists of black and white images of lesbian identifying beings and also trans identifying beings specifically. Over the past few years, I've had friends who have since transitioned, and I thought that it was important for me to include them as part of this visual documentation. So what you're seeing on the wall are friends and friends of friends and acquaintances who are born at different periods in South Africa. And this is a way in which we have a different kind of dialogue, which is intergenerational, because there is a generation that is born in the 90s, there are those who are born in the 80s, there are some of us who are born in the 70s, and there are those that we never had an opportunity to document, who are born in the 50s, etc., etc. So you're looking at a number of people born at various periods in South Africa and also in neighboring countries. So this is a way in which I'm sharing with everybody that positive image, because in as much as we go through different forms of struggles, we still live, we still love, and we learn from each other, because education is part of our life. And in a way, it means that we need to stress the importance of relationships and friendships, the connections and collaborations, because that's the only way in which we could fight further and make sure that our human rights are, in place or demanded by a collective of people, not just one person. So I'm just one of us, working with many participants in an open space. We don't need to be limited indoors or be contained or confined simply because of fear. It means that we need to rise above whatever struggles that we're going through. Hence, the show is called Rise, you know. And then Vukani, Rise, comprises of a number of other projects. On the other side, in Gallery 2, you have Morning, which looks specifically at a different kind of movement. And then you also have Brave Beauties, which looks at beauty expression specifically. Then you have Zava series, which focuses on intimacy and bonding and expressing love for the person that I'm connected with. So when you are here in this space, imagine these more than 100 portraits as daughters and sons who were born by men and women who might not be queer, but those individuals that we need support from whenever it gets tough. Then think of each and every individual as somebody's partner or somebody's lover or somebody's friend, maybe intimate or not intimate in various ways. Maybe they might be asexual, maybe some might be bisexual, but one thing for sure, we have a lot of lesbians and trans people. What made me start working on this project specifically? I'm a Black lesbian. So they say if you don't see yourself in the media, you have to produce your own media. So I'm a member of a collective called Nkanyiso, and I work with Lirato and many other Black females who are into productions. We produce the media that we don't see in the mainstream. So out of frustration of not seeing myself, and I avoided complaining, you know, if I keep on complaining to people who already own media, who have their own agenda or agendas, and I keep on saying, I'm not seeing a Black lesbian face in your magazine, I would have delayed myself. And it meant that I had to produce a document to change the status quo and also to challenge that absence. It was my responsibility as a human being, and to say, if I don't see me, I don't need to complain, you know. I think in my lifetime I've seen a lot of powerful people carrying tools of production, you know, fighting different wars. And I thought that the camera became that major tool in which we could fight silence, you know. So I was frustrated and I needed to bring about some change in my space or in our spaces. I needed to have a positive document of Black LGBTI people from home, you know, in order for me to claim, you know, my own full citizenship as a South African. I had to shoot. So that's what I've been doing, and I further train other young people or other women to take these tools for change, because we have a responsibility. You know, this is a huge task. We can't always be dominated in many forms. We need to change the systems, you know, of power. So I'm just doing that. I had to buy a camera, I had to shoot, I had to make sure that I distribute the work that I have produced. And we are collaborating. My collective and I, we're collaborating with different people. And it's been good, because in that way, I don't feel lonely anymore. I know that there are many voices, there are many of us. And we are an award-winning team, and it's great, you know. Faces and Phases. Faces, it talks about the face as the first thing that you see when you look at a person. And also, then you make your own judgments. And maybe you're curious about who that person is, what that person is all about. But all in all, the face specifically, it's ways in which I wanted to draw onto people's biographies, you know. I have my own autobiography. And then, obviously, for each and every person that you have here has own story or his story to tell about that transition period or that transformation in that person's life. Or it's about, you know, the development, different stages. Who we were yesterday and how we were an hour ago is completely different, and how we'll be tomorrow and the year after will be different. That growth, you know, maybe movements or moving to different spaces speaks to that phase that is either known or unknown. And phases in this instance, I just showcase some few individuals that I've taken at different times in different spaces, but it's the same faces, you know. And then I had to gauge a period where they were, and it's obviously an ongoing kind of process, or it's a process rather. I have Ayanda Makoloza that I photographed before, and then I photographed her again in 2013, so there's a 2-year gap between her. And then she got married. We had to document that phase of her life. The gaps that you see in this show specifically represent the people who never had the opportunity to be photographed, who unfortunately were killed against their will before they even, consented to be in this series. So the gaps represent, the lives lost as we documented this project. It's on hate crime victims that we documented, but those victims never had an opportunity to be part of this ongoing project. We're at a period in our lives where we have to look back, where we have to confront the situations without smiling, because these are not party photographs. This is what you call maybe documentation of existence of some sort.
Time for a break now. Join us in part 2. We'll stay with Zanele Muholi for the second part of the exhibition, Vukani Rise. Welcome back. This week we focus on the exhibition Vukani Rise, currently on display at the Open Eye Gallery. 4 series of work are showcased, all in relation to gender, intimacy, beauty, and the LGBT community in South Africa.
This is about love, race, and politics of representation. Zava is a combination of 2 names. Za is for Zanele and Va is for Valerie. We've been working on this project since 2012, and it's a way in which I want to show, the joys and complexities of being in an interracial relationship. Because when people talk about gay nation, queer nation, LGBTI community, we tend to forget about the mix, and multiplicities or multiple identities that we possess. So race, for me, as a person who's Black, being involved with a person of another race, I thought that it needs to be spoken about, because it speaks about diversity, how diverse we are as we push love agenda as part of the queer agenda. So I wanted to share that intimate, special moments that I share with someone that I love, and also for our grandchildren, really, to know that their grannies we once was, because this also forms part of our growth and as we move in between spaces. This is personal, highly personal document, because for one, I haven't seen many images of this kind. And I did not want to invite any third party or any third parties as part of this work specifically. So we documenting each other, in this instance here, she shot me, I shot us here, and then here, I photographed us.
I met Zanele through pageant, because it's a pageant. So one year I was entering one pageant in Davidson, so she was photographing for the pageant. So I get to meet Zanele through that pageant that she was photographing. So, and then the other time I got a call that she's wants to do a document, and she wants to take pictures of us, and I did that photo shoot with her. And when I see the photos, I was so happy, because I get to express myself in the form of portrait, because you can see by looking at the picture, I'm so comfortable in my own skin and I'm not like afraid of anything because it's my everyday life. Well, I'm so happy about to be part of this because I'm like telling the message in a form of portrait, you know. So if somebody else is like looking at the picture, you can see that I'm so comfortable in the way I am, you know. Yeah.
And so, when she took the picture, was it easy for you to do that?
Yes, it was easy for me because I understand myself. So obviously, whatever that involves my life, so like taking pictures of me, like being naked and all, half naked and everything. So it doesn't give me any problem. So I'm very confident with that one. I've always like met some of the challenges when I was growing up, but until I got to a point where I understand myself first, you know, so to a point where I have felt I was so comfortable with the way I'm living my life. So whatever people there was like saying after that, it couldn't care like more because I understood myself more than anybody else. So it doesn't matter if what do you think of me because I know myself and I know my life exactly.
Morning is basically a commemoration in which we remember a lot of Black LGBTI people that we have lost along the way, whose voices were never heard, whose life stories were never documented. And even those whose lives were documented should be remembered and be transferred to the younger generation so they'll know of their existence and how they fought for their struggle in order for them to gain the full freedoms as queer people, you know. So that freedom did not come easy because a lot of people were displaced and a lot of people are continuously killed, you know, as we carry on. And the morning here at the back is that way in which I just want us to remember, not only when a person just passed, but to remember as we wake up and think about how we personally may like to be remembered for all the contributions that we have made. In the picture on the far left, it's an image of Odidiva, who is a drag queen and also a graduate in drama and theater and also a social activist. So he's carrying a funeral program, and the image was taken after we buried a young victim of hate crime in Ventersdorp Township in 2014. Disebo Magawu was the person's name, who was brutally murdered, and her body was found across the road from her mother's home. And she was only 23 years old. So this is basically about tears. This is about pain. This is a way in which I want people to know about the loss that we have suffered as a nation, as people's children, lovers losing their partners, children being offended by hate crimes, and a whole lot of social ills, you know. So that's that. And the image, the main image, is an image of Nathi Dlamini, who's also a cultural activist and a drag queen, works for airport companies in Johannesburg, South Africa, out and fashion star, stylist and everything. Very, very nice, kind-hearted person. Nathi's image was taken after Tears, which is an event that takes place after a person has been buried. So I just captured that image of Nathi. People were smartly dressed at the funeral. There was high fashion, as how maybe the late Mundu would have liked it, you know. There were struggle songs, people were up and out. People rose above, really. It's just like connected with the theme of this whole exhibition, meaning Vukani rise. Yeah. Here we have a document that says, as a person of a different race, you have a right to be yourself without fear of being discriminated against due to your race. As a person who identifies as a homosexual or as an LGBTI individual, you have the right to access your rights and your votes. nobody will discriminate you. But and then in 2006, like 10 years after the Constitution was amended, the government legalized same-sex marriages. But then since then, over 10 years, there have been like a number of reported hate crime cases where people were curatively raped, like women and feminine gay men or men are raped simply because people want to convert them. The assumption of the perpetrator's methodological screwed up brain says that if you rape a lesbian, she'll become a straight woman. Show her that she's not a man, which is wrong. It's completely wrong because it violates one's right, you know. We've lost a lot of people along the way. People have been brutally murdered. It means that the Constitution and the laws that are in place that are meant to protect us need to be reviewed. It means that the government should enact anti-hate crime legislation in which the perpetrators feel the pain, which might not be the same like the one inflicted by the people that they kill, obviously, but they need to feel the steep sentence after they have brutally murdered the next person, because oftentimes our people's rights are violated, even though there is this constitution that says that we have a right to speak out, we have a right to be there. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, which is why I'm just saying let people be documented when they are still alive than for us to be stuck with images of the victims of hate crime, whereas we could celebrate the lives of our people when they are happy and jubilant and let the people, you know, exercise and enjoy the rights as per the Constitution.
Vukani Rise is at the Open Eye Gallery until the 29th of November. That's all this week on Arts Alive. See you next time.